I want to tell you, many farbrengens, we saw the Rebbe coming in 277 to the farbrengens. And the Gishmak was, the Rebbe comes up in Hashomayim to who? People like us. The general idea that we could farbrengen with us, people felt such a kiruv from the Rebbe to us.
This episode is dedicated to the Nishmas HaShlucha Hinda Gittel Alta Chaya Bas Rabbi Chassid Rebbe Israel, dedicated by her family. In addition, this episode is sponsored by Machne Yisrael. Stay tuned later in the episode to learn more about the new wedding hall packages provided by Machne Yisrael. I'm Yossi Kamen. Welcome to Among Chassidim by Derher, an ongoing farbrengen about life as a chassid, our vibrant connection with the Rebbe, and inspired living shaped by the way he teaches us each and every day. Good morning, Rabbi Gopin. Shalom Aleichem. How are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, thank you so much for making the time on a busy Erev Shabbos to have this conversation. Let's talk a little bit about Rabbi Gopin and where Rabbi Gopin came from. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about your parents, where they came from, when you were born, the chulu.
Okay. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I think Erev Shabbos is a special time. We can talk better, maybe more. The Ruach of Shabbos is almost here. Anyway, about me. My name is Rabbi Yosef Gopin from Farabad. I was born to my parents, Rabbi Yosef Gopin, and my mother, Sora Gopin. Meyazdim from Farabad. Even the Jewish people, but they came from Meyazdim means the founders of Farabad and the founders of many of the Farabad Moizdes. And they were very, very influential in Farabad and made quite an impact on many of the residents of Farabad in many ways. They came from Russia. They were born already after the revolution, when the communists were trying to crush Yiddishkeit. My mother was in a small shtetl called Karlevich in Ukraine. In the small shtetl was a little bit easier to grow up as Hasidic kinder, because the communists did not have such interest in the small places. And she grew up in a very Hasidic shtetl, a Hasidic little town, and a Hasidic home, and a Hasidic big family. It was a big family. My mother's family is the Shapiro family. They lived there in this little town. And she was there for the first 18 years of her life. She was in the shtetl called Karlevich. And then she moved to Leningrad, where she found my father. My father came from Kharkov. Right after the bar mitzvah, the Hasidim in Kharkov, Rebbe Zalman Sarabransky, Abbe Pliskin, Rebbe Mendel Futterfass, at the time told my father and my Zayde, his place is in Temchet Mimim. At that time, Temchet Mimim was not a big yeshiva, was small branches.
He wasn't from the Bam Shemishpacha?
It was, of course, my Zayde was a Tomim. My Zayde learned Lubavitch. And my elder Zayde was a big Chassid, Mendel Mameyofa, but he was an uncle to all the Lipskers and a Zayde to all the Gopins. He was a big Chassid. Mendel Mameyofa, Rabbi Zalman Shimon Dvorkin, always reminded me that he remembers as a young bocher in Lubavitch the way my great-grandfather, Menachem Mendel Mameyofa, used to come for Rosh Hashanah to the Rebbe Rashab, and but Kiyas, he was pushing and fighting with the Bochrim to have a very good place to listen to Rebbe Rashab's Kiyas. And he came to Rebbe Rashab and looked for a chosn for his daughter, Bela, and Shliach happened. And then they moved they lived other places, but the main thing what I want to talk about is Kharkov. When the elder Chassidim in Kharkov told my Zayde, my father, your place is not in Kharkov, but you have to go to Temchet Mimim. And there was small little groups, like cells yeshiva ktanes, yeshiva gdelas in different cities, in different parts of Russia. And my father
What years are you talking about?
1932, Tofresh Tzaddigim, 1932, 33. And he went to Bardichev. At that time, Reb Shel Brook, Reb Chaim Shol Brook, had a yeshiva in Bardichev with Mesiras Nefesh. My father was there. Then it's a whole story where they went from city to city to city, and by the end was they came to Gruzia, to the city of Kutaïs. In Kutaïs was a small group of Chabad families, the Lipskers, the Menkins, the Perlovs, and they hosted the Bochrim. And in Gruzia, Georgia, was much easier to have a yeshiva because the Sfardim were strong believers and they helped and they supported. And Bechlal, we know that Stalin was a little bit afraid from the Georgian Jews, from the Gruzian region, because he himself was from Gruzia. He was therefore...
He didn't want to start up with them.
He didn't want to start with them. Therefore, it was a little bit easier. And after my father's group, other groups came till towards the end of the World War II. There was a yeshiva there in Gruzia. My father was a Heberman, and besides being a bocher in yeshiva, he helped out me the administration to get money, to find food, to find. And my father's chaverim were Moshe Benjamin Kaplan, Moshe Aron Gaisinski, Meshke Morozov, Rav Hili Pesner, Nissen Pinson. They were together. This group were together many years together with Mesiras Nefesh, of course, that bound them together. Anyway, when it came time to need money, they had to travel from Gruzia to Leningrad, because at that time Leningrad was a big center of Chabad Hasidim. And they all were good business people. My father came, he didn't know anybody, but he was told to go to Reperetz Mochkin. Reperetz was the elder Hasidim in Leningrad at the time. He organized a big fundraiser, and my father made him big money to travel in those days, a whole big train ride from Leningrad to Gruzia. To have thousands of rubles under his belly was very dangerous. And my father had a beard already. He was a suspect. And on the train, you have to daven, and you have other things to do. My father went once and twice, and one of his trips, when he arrived to Leningrad, this story we did not hear from him. My father never spoke. But Reb Mendel Raskin, Alav Sholem, from Farabad, David Raskin's brother, two older brothers, Rishon Ben Raskin, told us the story on my father's shiva. My father arrived one time from Gruzia to Leningrad, and he came to the shul. He saw two bochrim lach, teenagers, not in yeshiva. My father found out that it's the Raskin boys, David Raskin's two older brothers. My father went to their father, Rabbi Yosef, and he told them, what are bochrim doing here? Take to yeshiva. Yeshiva, sakonas nefoshes. My father told him, no, you must take them, and he worked on him, and he agreed to send the two boys to the yeshiva in Leningrad, in Gruzia. They told the story to us. They were the first time on a train. They were afraid from everybody. There's some beards growing up, and my father looked like a chassid, and my father davened on the train, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, and one day the train stopped for a day. My father went to look for a mikveh. And they were out of their mind. They were afraid, but then they went to the yeshiva, and they spent many years. These two boys became Chassidish and Gelite in that yeshiva. Okay. My father came back to Gruz, to Leningrad, Tofresh Tzadik Ches, or Tzadik Tes. Rabbi Yosef Khan was the Benal from the yeshiva, told him, we're trying to expand the yeshiva. There's more Lubavitcher Kinder. And they want them to travel to Samarkand to see if it's possible to find a place where the bochrim can come there. My father traveled, spent the whole summer, and they're going to make it happen. And didn't happen right away. My father went back and the war happened.
So there was already Lubavitch Chassidim in Samarkand?
There was some Bukhari Eden, that was not Ashkenazi, and only Chosid was there, Reb Simcha Gorodetsky. But the was Bukhari Eden, what they had connection to the Rebbe, to the fake Rebbe, to the Rebbe Rashab, what they had connection of from Lubavitch from the Shluchim from Rebbe Rashab. And when the war broke out in Leningrad, Tovshin Aleph, my father was already married, and they knew the Nazis, the Germans are coming closer to Leningrad. And my father decided to travel to Samarkand. And he not only traveled by himself, he made a big campaign in Leningrad to travel. And many Hasidim went to Leningrad, to Samarkand because of my father. But we sitting Shiva for my father in Crown Heights, a few ladies, our mishpoche, came to talk to us. And they're telling a very special event about my father. Was in Sof Ov Atcholas Elul Tovshin Aleph. My father arrived from Leningrad to Kharkov on the way to Samarkand. And he told the Hasidim, please run away, the Nazis are moving fast. Where to go? Go to Samarkand. Is the Pinse Mishpoche there, the Deutsch Mishpoche, the Chitrik Mishpoche, the Korf Mishpoche, all decided to leave. And a very short time after that, Yom Kippur, Tovshin Beis, the Nazis already arrived to Kharkov and they wiped out the Jewish community. And my father came to Samarkand, and he was a younger man to get Michal Teitelbaum and Yisrael Levin, Schomberg's father, Sarah Heider. And this is a lot of stories there, we'll skip it. And my father ran away from Samarkand after the war with all the Hasidim. Before everybody went, he went on his own. Before they had organized trains called the Shalons, my father in the summer of Tovshin Vov went to Lodz, from Lodz to Poking.
With the same thing, with the forged the Polish passports?
Yeah, but he did it by himself, not to a group. My father, my Zayde, my uncle, my two uncles, and my brother Zalman and my older sister, they were little kids, they came. And when they arrived to Poking, Rebbe Chana was there. And she was a very special lady. The way she greeted them, she welcomed them. She knew what was it to escape Russia, to come out of Russia. She was very close to my mother, to my father, and she remembered my sister very well. And my father came to the Rebbe, Tovshin Chov Beis. The Seder was...
She remembered them, you're saying later, she remembered. Yeah.
Tovshin Chov Beis is about 16 years later. My father came to the Rebbe. At that time, the Seder was the Hasidim, the guest came for Eretz was a Seder order, who goes, when they go. Moshe Leib Rothstein organized a Seder for the Orchim to go to visit the Rebbetzin. They went in groups. My father comes in, the Rebbetzin remembered him. And the Rebbetzin asked him, how's your daughter Razel doing? Because she remembers when they arrived to Poking, she was not feeling well. She remembered it. That kind of person she was. Anyway, my parents came to Farabad, to Paris, Farabad, and they started, my father became the Menal from Sefer Memloche.
When were you born?
I was born Tovshin Yudalef in Farabad.
Farabad. Mm-hmm.
And Farabad was at the time a small little village with no electricity.
So when did your parents arrive to Farabad?
Tovshin. They were from the early families, Tovshin Tez.
So Mamash and the Friedrich Rebbe established it. They were there.
Yeah, I died for the first stage film, and they were very active in settling Farabad and organizing it and making it Farabad as we know it today. And the Rebbe Tovshin Yudalet started with Sefer Melocha, and the Askonim, the Menalim, looked for a man to run it. And they asked my father to become the Menal, and he worked many years in Sefer Melocha. In the great difficult times, there was no money, was a lot of Talmidim, was no facilities. But my father started from scratch to build Farabad, together with to build with Sefer Mloche, and became a Meised L'Shemel Tiferes. Till a time came when my father left the Sefer, and other people took it over. And a short time after he took over, the Sefer almost became obsolete for many reasons. But my father and my mother were very active in Farabad. They were prominent members of Farabad. They were not only they have a wonderful mishpocha, raised the kids special, but also they had a very big influence on many young families or even older families. Families came from Russia. Not all of them had the opportunity to go to yeshiva and to go to places. Some of families were simpler families, and my father was very, very, very active in helping those young elite who did not go to yeshiva, those young elite who did not go to cheder, but they were Chassidish Rishi Seiden, and my father, many of them employed them in the Sefer Mloche, and he was always looking out for others. Anyway, now growing up in Farabad, physically, Farabad was very poor. The homes where we lived in, Arabic homes, no electricity, no hot water. Everything was very, very primitive. But as children growing in Farabad, we grew up as happy children. I remember the Shabbosim in Farabad, the Yom Tevim, Simchas Torah, Purim, the Yom Tevim Bechlal, and Shabbos Bechlal, the Kiddushim, the farbrengens. And the Bchal was a very Chassidish ruach in Farabad. And there were the older Chassidim, Reb Shlomo Chaim Olav Sholem, Folekan, were there farbrengen in Gelait, and was a very, we saw a Chassidish alive. Not only heard about it, we saw it.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the Chassidim that were there in Farabad?
There were a lot of Chassidim, but to give an example, I'll give an example for Chabad, Shabbos. After the meeting was over, many young elite kept sitting in the corners of the shul. And young elite, eltere, and they were sitting and davening barichas. And that's it. The tziyur from Shabbos in Farabad, who went home? The Balabatni went home. The Chassidishiden, young elite, the eltere. Who were the tziyurim for Chabad at the time was the Rabbi Shlomo Chaim Folekan. Was a lot of eltere tmimim. Rabbi Mordechai Meir Garerik he was Gershmendel's father. It was, for example, another one was there, Gavriel Kagan. He was the sheikhet in Farabad. He was Leibke Alevsky's grandfather. A real chassid. He davened barichas Shabbos and all big. There was a chassidish ruach. You saw the people are chassidim, living chassidus and learning chassidus. Shabbos, Friday night in shul. It was a big shir in Kote Teire. Rov Elam was lying inside after Mincha to Ma'ariv. Nobody was rushing home to daven Ma'ariv early. It was a pshir. The same thing Shabbos morning. In addition, was Chavrusas of Ingelait learning Chassidus by themselves. The same thing Shabbos morning was, he came to Shul Shabbos morning, was a big shir, and many Chassidim and all Chavrusas, or the other smaller groups, was a Chassidus was like, that was the life. There was the Seder, their Seder of Shabbos, Chassidus and Barichas, and then the Kiddushim. And there was, because the Rov Elmer Ruchnius'dike was a Kiddush. It was not too much for bison there, but I said for hours, and people talked to each other and inspired each other. And it was a very, as kids watching the Varimkeit, the closeness to each other, it was made a very big impression. For Chabad was a, then we went as kids, for Chabad then only till 8th grade. Then we have to go to Lud for Mesifta. or 8th grade and higher. There was a couple in Lud, in Yeshiva in Lud was also a wonderful Yeshiva in the Pardes at the time. We had wonderful Magid Shurim and Mashpim. But then we came to Kfar Chabad, to the Zal. And I want to say, coming into Kfar Chabad was a wonderful Yeshiva. Was maybe 150, 200 Bochrim maybe there. Was the end of Tov Shirchov Zayin. Ältere Bochrim, jüngere Bochrim. The Zal was packed. Was Dorim, the Zal was packed. Everybody sat and learned. People kept Dorim. Well, a starke Ashgoche, Einkel Kaza Mashgiach. They had good Rosh Yeshivas. And it was very strong learning. In addition to that, the Shlomo Chaim was a Mashpia. The Shlomo Chaim had the power to create an atmosphere in the yeshiva of Chassidishkeit, of davening, behaving, iskafia. He will speak about it every day. The Shlomo Chaim had a Tanya Shir every day for the whole Zal for 45 minutes. And of course, a Tanya Shir, but it was a farbrengen every day. And everybody stayed there. Is if you want or don't want, he created the ruach of davening, ruach of Yerushalayim. It was it was the reason the Shlomo Chaim had such an impact. Shlomo Chaim was a very varemerid. It was very enthusiastic. It was full of energy. When he spoke, you could see he means it. And beside the point, the respect the Bochum had for Shlomo Chaim, because you look at him, what was he say that I am? He went to the mikveh at 5:30 in the morning. Then he went home. He came to the yeshiva 7 in the morning and gave a shir in Chassidus every morning. Then he stayed with the Bochrim and davening. Then he went to his room upstairs every day to 1, 2 o'clock, every single day, davening barichas. When you see a man doing it every day, when I came to Kfar Chabad, he was 72 years old, and still doing it, you cannot, it's real. It was very real. It was, and therefore, people listen to him because, he means it. He's farbrengen, shmaki farbrengens, and he called Bochrim privately. Myself, he called me over many, many times. And he gave me a very hard time. He demanded, he pushed me and do this and that. And that's the way he became close to the Bochrim. The Bochrim felt
he was involved personally
with many Bochrim. And he felt a Bocher has potential or a Bocher has a problem. And at the same time, there were a lot of American Bochrim there, English Bochrim. But many of them maybe didn't understand exactly what Shlomo Chaim stands for, what Shlomo Chaim is demanding. Nevertheless, he find a way to call them over, to speak to them on their level. You find today English Bochrim, American Bochrim, they have tremendous memories of Shlomo Chaim. What they remember, the farbrengens, I'm not sure they got. But he called them over and he gave them little adrocha on their level. I want to say Farabad, the yeshiva, Farabad itself was a wonderful place.
So you stayed there till you went for Kvutza?
I did know Kvutza. I go before Kvutza. I went on my own.
Okay, so I want to ask you before that. So obviously something brought you to go before to go to the Rebbe.
No,
what was the
okay? Let me say something else. Klal, we're very far from 770. Shlichus almost did not come. My morim did not come. They came very late. And when they come late, it's hard to learn something came. Both was a tremendous tzimoen by the Bochrim to the Rebbe. Was that tzimoen? Bochrim were talking about it. Especially a Bochrim came from 770. The Bochrim, the Kvutza came, they're telling us stories about the farbrengens, about this, what's going on. I remember Tov Shirchov Zayin, my brother Zalman's Kvutza came from the Rebbe. And I could see one thing, the Bochrim came back. They had such a demand to go back. you could see in them, like felt they left the Mokirchaim. My brother Zalman was a Schomber Volpo, was a good chaver of mine. He was older than me, but he was telling me stories about the farbrengen, and they created a tremendous tzimoyen. If a young bocher in Farabad, what was the goal? To go to the Rebbe. And when Zalman came the second time from the Rebbe, and there was an elder bocher, took away him Zalman and Oske Wolf. They were bringing with us, and it was a very good, tremendous ashpo they had. And they pushed me to go to the Rebbe, to go even earlier, but I was able to manage something to go on my own, and to be able to stay there unlimited.
How did you do that?
That is too private to talk about it. And anyway, I did it, and but I also something else. As children in Farabad, used to come orchim from 770. Or the orchim came back from Tishrei. They were telling us about Tishrei by the Rebbe. And the Kfutz of Melamdim went on the first charter to the Rebbe. In Farabad, in Talmud Torah in Farabad, the Talmud Torah was also a dormitory with a lot of outside kids from Tel Aviv, from Bnei Brak, learning Farabad Talmud Torah. And together was listening to the stories of the Ingelite coming back from the Rebbe, describing kids by the Rebbe. Describing as little kids, you have no idea what they did to us. What did to us? I said, Mamesh 770 is in Gan Eden. Mamesh l'mayla mikol ha'inyonim. It's from young age, we always wanted to be there. And during the years, Orchim came, told this and told stories, give over farbrengen from the Rebbe. The Rebbe was demanding people come back from the Rebbe to give over the farbrengen. And we were listening to them. When the tapes came in from the farbrengen, we listened to the Rebbe's tapes. It was just unbelievable. To hear the Rebbe's call, the Rebbe's siches, the Rebbe's maimer, the Rebbe's singing, and always by the big farbrengen, the Rebbe was always a siche for Kfar Chabad. We always felt that Kfar Chabad is special by the Rebbe. It was a feeling like this. I want to go back for a moment. The Talmud Torah in Kfar Chabad, Mein Zeide was the Meyaset for the Talmud Torah in Kfar Chabad. He ran for many, many years. And the Talmud Torah had a dormitory building. When they came to Kfar Chabad, they found a structure unfinished, where the Arabs started. My Zayde built a building in Kfar Chabad, Tovshin Yud Aleph Yud Beis. They made a dormitory there. Here, my Bobbe were running the Talmud Torah. My Bobbe ran the kitchen and the dormitory, and my Zayde was the Benal from the Cheder. And made hiring teachers, and he ran the Cheder. Anyway, it's for Chabad. Why I'm saying all of it, when it has come to a point, for Chabad is an unbelievable thing. When I came to the Rebbe, I walked into the Rebbe. Chof of Tovshin Choftes in middle of the farbrengen. Many people ask the question, what did you feel? What did you feel? I felt nothing. I know what to feel. I know what I see. I know this the Rebbe, I'm here, finish. So I felt, I didn't look for feelings. That didn't matter to me. I know I'm right here by the Rebbe, Baruch Hashem, I came, and now is the time to be here, to do what I have to do, to be with the Rebbe, and to attend the farbrengen, and to learn the farbrengen, and to chazer the farbrengen. And Baruch Hashem, a good chaverim from Farabad, we get him with me that time, Moshe Havlin, Akiva Cohen, Talman Druk, Moshe Perman. We were together there. They came before me with the previous kutze, but together we were bringing together, chazering together. And it was a very, very, it didn't matter. One thing I want to tell you. Farabad was a wonderful place. When it comes to the Rebbe, Farabad, I forgot about it. I became all of a sudden, in compare what's going on here, seeing the Rebbe every day, and spending Shabbos with the Rebbe, the farbrengens, and the Rebbe's maftir. Just seeing the Rebbe by Mincha. Just being by regular Mincha. It was a different world. A different world. It's all the Giluyim, all the Farbrengen, and all the Chassidishkeiten, and all the Adroches, and all the Ruach, and all the Ashpoes, what we had in Farabad, became pale. When we saw the emes from the Rebbe, it's not only the emes from the Rebbe. When just being the Rebbe's Farbrengens, and just being with the Rebbe was not just talking, it was an absolute emes. The name what the Rebbe is speaking about is not, we have to learn, we have to understand, we have to believe. The feeling was, that's it. The way the Rebbe spoke, and just being by the Rebbe. They're talking before Tishrei. Came Tishrei, the Rebbe's Tkiyas and the Rebbe's Akofes. That was totally out of the world. Make us look to think, did we have a Tishrei before coming to the Rebbe? I remember we bochnik for the Tzolke Bochrim after Tishrei, had a little farbrengen. His one Bochrim gets up and said, how could we even think we had a Tishrei in Farabad? It was not just it was a different world. The Rebbe picked up people like us, simple people that picked us up and put us into another world. Not only for bringers, just being there by a regular mincha upstairs in shul. That was a small crowd. The Rebbe comes in, and the Rebbe, at the end of davening, checked out who is there. He looked around, very quick inspection. And we're trying to hide from the Rebbe. The Rebbe shouldn't see me. It was just unbelievable. Just being there, being in that room with the Rebbe. It made I want to make us forget about, not just forget, like we felt that he existed before. You cannot imagine the Rebbe's Tkiyas. You cannot imagine. If somebody can come and tell you, Yossi, let me describe to you the Rebbe's Tkiyas, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's impossible. Somebody come to describe the Rebbe's Akofes, impossible. You can tell this and that, but there's no way to describe it. I remember in Farabad, Rosh Hashanah, is the Rebbe Shlomo Chaim with his group of Talmidim, Davin Bariches, and Rosh Hashanah was a sad day, and this, and Chassidish Eden, Kabbalah Malchus, came to the Rebbe, was a different Rosh Hashanah, different. This is, I will try to say the word, the way the Rebbe describes it in my Morim, Hamshochas, Malchus, Me'etzem, Atzmusei. That was happening that day. I felt something totally out of this world. Ganz ist absolut, das ist, it's heavens, the mile of an alinos. The Rebbe's face, the Rebbe's look. The Rebbe walked in Rosh Hashanah by night, it was 770, it was a Friday night davening. It was a face, a different ponim, different face. A different face. Friday night, there was a different face by the Rebbe. When the Rebbe walked in Friday night to 770, it was like we could see the Rebbe is not there. When he walked downstairs, the Rebbe, when he walked from upstairs downstairs, Sunday, Friday night, the way the Rebbe walked, it was like not here. A regular Friday night. Rosh Hashanah was what it means. I cannot explain to you, but I know the Rebbe was not here. The Rebbe was not different. He was what the Rebbe is. What the Rebbe was, what he really is. Legamre ganz. A terrible story happened. Rosh Hashanah night, Tov Shin Lamed. It was Friday night, Rosh Hashanah, and the Bochrim like to stay close to the Rebbe, but it feels Rosh Hashanah. And happened to be, I know, that I was young and aggressive and energetic. I stood in front of the Rebbe, and the Seder was the Rebbe to come in, say Tehillim, and then start Kabbalah Shabbos, because Rosh Hashanah. Rebbe start Kabbalah Shabbos. All of a sudden, we hear somebody screaming from the Bible shul, from the women's gallery. Somebody is screaming. Somebody is screaming. And then another person. In a few seconds, the whole Bible shul was screaming. They stopped the Kabbalah Shabbos, and all the young men ran upstairs. And they stopped the minyan. And the Rebbe was saying, at that time was no bima yet. The Rebbe was staying on the floor. I was staying on the floor with his face, Mizrach. And the Rebbe, after 10 minutes or more, the Rebbe turns around. But what's daven finished? Why don't you daven? The screaming and the yelling, the Rebbe didn't hear. Wir daven nicht, it was nicht der Chasen. It was, you could see it.
So everything that was described to you in Farabad about the Rebbe was much more when you actually experienced it.
You can describe events, but to describe a tziyur, a ruach, a feeling, you cannot describe it.
Among Chassidim is brought to you by Chassidische Derher. We live in a chaotic world, a world where for us Chassidim, as a seinu, lei ra'inu, we do not have the ability to hear and see the Rebbe on a daily basis. Yet we know that the Rebbe is very much with us, and the Chassidus Chabad is alive and thriving more than ever before. One needs to only tap into it. Chassidische Derher provides you and your family with the tools necessary to tap into all of this. Whether it's the monthly magazine, the way it all began, whether it's Derher books, Derher online content, and so much more. Men, women, and children throughout the world benefit and use these tools on a daily basis. Whether it's children enjoying the children's magazine that comes along with the regular Derher, or enjoying the children's podcast, whether it's Bachrim in yeshivas receiving the Derher, whether it's girls in high schools enjoying Derher club in their local high school. People all over the world and from all walks of life enjoy and utilize these tools and take advantage of it. If you're not already subscribed to Derher monthly magazine, do so today at derher.org. That's derher.org. Derher is a dynamic organization which is committed to continue providing these tools, grow on a constant basis, and do all that we can to help this effort. Baruch Hashem, it takes a lot of resources and finances to make this all happen. You can be part of Derher through your financial support as well, through visiting our website derher.org, or through contacting us to setting up a meeting. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
I want to say something else to you. I remember my first Shabbos with the Rebbe. It was Shabbos Mevorchim Elul Tov Shin Chavtes. It was a very small crowd. We were still in camp. In the country, it was a very small crowd, but farbrengen. It was very close to the Rebbe. And I remember there's a group of young light, Shluchim, a couple of Shluchim, young light, Chassidish young light, staying next to the Rebbe. first Shabbos, I saw a tziyur from Chassidish Light staying with the Rebbe. With such a gagoim to the Rebbe, staying the Rebbe like, it's not just Bittel zum Rebbe, what it says, mit das Ponim gagoim to the Rebbe. That made such an impression on me. I never heard about it, but nobody spoke about it. I saw Chassidish Light, Isaac Schwey, Zelig Katzmann, Gershon Mendel, Rebbe Springer. They were in Geleitlich at the time. Stay around the Rebbe, das so sort. Made a big impression. But anyway, let's go to, that was Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, go ahead.
So you went, you had Yechidus when you came in the beginning?
No, I had Yechidus in Chede Shoder. Yechidus in Chede Shoder. And it was a very, again, people ask, what did you feel? I felt nothing. I came to Rebbe, and my first Yechida was very special Yechidas. As a bocher at this age, trying to become a shtickle mensch. And you feel there's opportunity to, but the Rebbe can, I wrote a letter to the Rebbe, it might settle. The Rebbe answered me every line I wrote, every paragraph, every Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dal, he went to my Seder. And he gave me very, very unbelievable stuff, but I don't want to talk about it now.
Is there any of it you can share?
But the main thing of this is, we'll talk about it some other time. I don't want to, but very, very, very good. Very good. That was, I could see the Rebbe saw Bocher coming in. He does not know what's happening with him. Let me straighten him out. That was the feeling. Interesting, the next year, went to Yechidus. I went to Yechidus every year, my Yom HaLedes. Different questions, different issues. But I wrote something. It might settle something I wrote the year before. Now, the Rebbe starts the Yechidus. My answer me. It did not go according to my order, to my Seder. There was like a sikhe, an Indian, and all the questions were answered in that Indian. And the Rebbe finished. Then the Rebbe tells me, you wrote this and this. We spoke to you about it last year.
You didn't remember?
I should remember. And I remember the Rebbe answered me, everything. But I needed some other. And the Rebbe told me, we spoke about it last year. Huh? And the Rebbe could tell me, you remember I talked to you, yes? No, the Rebbe said no. The Rebbe repeated. Not only the same idea, not only the same words, the same niggun. I was thinking that I put a tape on from last year. You know what year was by the Rebbe date from Oder Lamed Tovshel Lamed till Teves Tovshel Lamed Aleph. There was one of the most stormy years by the Rebbe. Mi Yehudi, Shtochim, the ceasefire on Suez Canal, Russian demonstrations. Was a very, very stormy year by the Rebbe. The Rebbe like this, that year, the Rebbe took the whole world into his hands. They was challenging the whole world. The Freie, the Frume, and Yehudi was not only to the Israel government, to the Frume. And not only to the Mafdal, to the Datir Leumi, to the Zionist religion. To the Frume, the Agudas Yisrael, they were attacking everybody the year. And how many people came through? A young Bachel comes in, Rebbe doesn't forget it. But I felt the time. It's not that Rebbe loves me. Rebbe cares for us. I realized a Yechidus is not a meeting. The Rebbe is Misatzem. The Rebbe is totally involved in it. It's totally, misatzem. When you're coming into the Rebbe doesn't give you an answer. I give you an answer. Oh, okay, the spoke last year about look, see if here and there. No. The Rebbe didn't take a chance. I could see the Yechidus it's something doesn't exist anywhere. It cannot exist. Something a totally different world. When a person comes to Yechidus to the Rebbe sagt, misatzem mit Chosid. What you asked to the Rebbe took it into himself and was there forever. That was my feeling.
Okay. Thank you for
And
sharing that.
I tell you something, I want to just say, Yossi, I didn't share this for many years with nobody. Lately, I became more confident in myself. I share it. But I didn't because it was something. And it was a very, very, and I just tell, but I'll tell you, my father came for Tishrei here. And I saved my father in a sukkah. A couple of light bochrim farbrengen. And I took l'chaim, for geschmack farbrengen given. And I shared this story with my father. What my father tells me. I'm not impressed. The Rebbe is a good zikorn. A person depends on zikorn. A good zikorn. The Rebbe's Yechid is not a zikorn. It's a Rebbe. It's a different world. My father gave me a lesson that night about this.
What's the lesson?
I said, eine Welt ist nicht a gute Kopf, a gute Zikorn. Es ist eine ganz andere Welt, es ist eine ganz andere Linie, es ist ganz anders. And we saw a lot of things by Yechidus. A lot of things we saw, the way the Rebbe answered you, what he answered you, what he didn't answer you. When you walked in Yechidus, you could not hide from the Rebbe anything. But the Rebbe couldn't pretend. He knew what to answer you. He knew what you need. And he knew what you really mean, or you wrote some things just for Yetzirah.
How do you know what to write? You spoke to Mashpia about it?
What's right?
What to write in the title?
Unfortunately, I didn't speak to Mashpia. I wrote things on my chest. I wrote things what I struggled with. I wrote things I feel I needed. I needed help in it. And the Rebbe, by each Yechid, was a different approach. And sometimes the Rebbe added to the previous year. Added. And somebody added something totally different. What he didn't even ask. But the Rebbe knew you should ask. He gave me something about something I didn't ask. Why didn't I ask? I didn't feel I'm shaykhs to it. I asked him what I feel I needed, what I'm struggling with, I'm dealing with. But yes, one time the Rebbe told me, I didn't even ask for it. And I felt like the Rebbe said, okay, he didn't ask me, but you should do it. Bachlal, I saw many times the Yechidus. The Rebbe's approach to us was not what we think we are, what we are capable. He talked to us the way he thinks we are capable. Things we can really do. The Rebbe did not rely on us, what we think, what I can or I cannot. A few times he taught me certain things. And we saw by Yechidus, but the Rebbe is, I want to say, by Yechidus, the Rebbe's farbrengens. It's not, it was such a geschmack of farbrengens, yes, but that was not the whole thing. The farbrengens geschmack. The Rebbe walked into farbrengens sometimes. You see it's coming from Minashomayim. You could see it's coming from a different place. Rabbi Simpson told a story Rebbe Eliyahu Simpson, Tovshin Lamed, he was the head of the Vad from Siyum Sefer Torah from Mashiach. Mashiach Sefer Torah. He was going to the Rebbe Yechidus a few times to begin Royas, what to do, what not to do, how to do. And the Rebbe made him a list who is going to honor Ba'ator Reisa. If you watch or you listen to the tape, he was in ganzen zu tumult. The Rebbe kept correcting him. When he called up people, and people were surprised. Rebbe was a reshime, was a list. But what happened to him? He told his Eineklach. He walked into the Rebbe's room to pick up the Sefer Torah to bring him downstairs. He walked into the Sefer Torah. The Rebbe was going behind him with the box, the Kesser. He told his Eineklach, if you know what happened in the Rebbe's room before he came downstairs, you would not be surprised. I was such a tumult. I want to tell you, many farbrengens, we saw the Rebbe coming in to 7-7 to the farbrengens. And the Gishmak was, the Rebbe comes up in Hashomayim to who? To people like us. The general idea that we could bring with us, people felt such a kiru from the Rebbe to us. If an example, my first Shabbos by the Rebbe was Shabbos Re'ei Tovshin Chovtes. Shabbos Mevorchim, farbrengen. The next Shabbos Sheftim, a surprise farbrengen. I was looking at what's going on in 770 after people know the farbrengen. Surprise farbrengen. Everybody, the excitement was unbelievable. The Poshit Borchim, the Tzilish Borchim, who was there? Farbrengen, surprise farbrengen. What was it? A farbrengen means the Rebbe is coming down to us. Everybody felt it. The special Gishmak I remember wasn't the Gishmak for the Rebbe's Rashi Shlichus. Was very interesting. Gishmak is Shlichus. That was not the Gishmak. When the Rebbe spoke the Shlichus before the Maimer, Tifi, Inyon, Mechsidus, whatever, the Maimer, by Rashi's Shlichus was the feeling the Melamed is teaching little children. He spoke our language. The way he explained the Rashi, the way he asked the Rashi, the way he tried to answer this way and that way. The language of the Rebbe, the Rebbe's tziyur was like a melamed mit Kinder. Azak Varimkeit, a closeness. People wait for the Rashi for that reason. The closeness of the Rebbe to us. You could see people who are to go to Shlichus. I kocht the Rashi Shlichus with and that's what she Gishmak in the Rashi Shlichus. That's not what the Gishmak in Shlichus. The feeling was Rebbe farbrengen something with the hand like this. And Melamed mit Kinder. The hand was a different kind of different tziyur. With the Chumash, Rebbe was with his finger. Rashi zog dos, and the Posel zog dos. Was a Melamed mit Kinder. A Maimer, the Rebbe says, the Rebbe is Nashomayim, zog the Maimer. But the Rashi Shlichus, there was a Gishmak. Because we all knew the Rebbe's, when he came to farbrengen, he came from a different place altogether. And that was, listen, I had a friend, a Polish Chos, who became a Lubavitcher. I told him I was in 770, 5 years a bocher. 5 years, you were not a little bit bored? He told me, life was such a Gishmak be there. Such a farbrengen. Just be me the Rebbe. See what? We couldn't get enough of it. Nobody thought to go to travel somewhere to. It didn't exist. It was just, and that was the farbrengen. So that was. I wanted a coffee is a separate story, and Tchias is in Yonim Lagamre. I will tell a little story, Yossi.
You may be aware that having a simcha and celebrating an engagement of a loved one is a very, very happy occasion. At the same time, can be a very stressful time. The exorbitant amounts and costs that are involved with making a wedding in today's day and age really can take a very big toll on the chassan's parents, on the kala's parents, and all around create tremendous, tremendous stress. Something needs to be done. When the Rebbe started Keren HaChamish, one of the components and one of the needs that the Rebbe was addressing was specifically Hachnasas Kala. In fact, over the years and in recent years, Keren HaChamish has given out subsidies, help, and aid to those in need making a wedding. But the time has come to do something drastically different and to make a real, real impact. In the last few months, Keren HaChamish has launched a brand new wedding package where someone can make a full Crown Heights wedding for under $30,000. That is a savings of 30 to 50% for an average family on the wedding costs. This is something that is right in line with the mandate that the Rebbe gave Keren HaChamish when he founded it to help with Achnasas Kala, and this is something that will help everyone in the community and will hopefully bring relief and the ability to celebrate simchas in the proper way without financial stress or worry. To learn more information, you can log on to hall.kerenhachamish.org. That's hall, Hall, .kerenhachamish, KERENHACHOMESH.org.
I was on a plane not long ago towards Israel, and across the aisle, I can see this Rosh Yeshiva, and I could see the Litvischer Azar, little bit of the a little bit of a bitterer Gaza. We're sitting, we look at each other. He looks at me, I look at him. Shalom Aleichem, wie heißt ihr? Tell me his name. His name? I asked him, you are from this yeshiva? Yes. One of my cousins was teaching in your yeshiva. Oh, what should I call it? I told him, it's your cousin. I know him, I know his father. It's doesn't matter. Rabbi Mandel from Yeshiva Brooklyn. It was a Telzer Talmud. And my cousin Beryl Shapira was teaching there many years. And he tells me, that's Rosh Yeshiva, the Rebbe told him to stay in my yeshiva, not to go away. They told the Rebbe approved his yeshiva. Kilo. Kids we start talking a long ride, long flight. And I told him about his Rosh Yeshiva, about Gifter. We talk about a lot of things we talk. I told him, you people make decisions about the Rebbe, not knowing what the Rebbe is. No, we know there's a big Goyen, we know it. I'm a big Goyen, the Rebbe. I want to have a few points in this. He's much older than me. I ask you, do you remember the 6-Day War? Of course I remember it. Do you remember the Pachad Am Yisrael had 2 weeks before the war? Of course I remember. What happened like Beimer a week before the war in 770? The Rebbe got up in front of 1,000 people, 1,000 Jews, like Beimer parade, and he spoke with such a klorkeit, with such a bitochen, that the matzev in Eretz is going to be, not to be afraid, it's going to be a good matzev. That matzev will bring Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael to a higher place than ever. A week later, we saw it happening. When the Rebbe spoke, to Am Yisrael, the Rebbe spoke, I told him, it's not the Rebbe screamed. He could see the Rebbe felt the pain of Am Yisrael, the worry. And they were screaming. And I told them, don't believe me? There's a video from it. Then I told him like this. You remember me, Yehudi? Of course. Tov Shel Lamed Rebbe started. Tov Shel Lamed was in America, many Rosh Yeshivas, many Rebbes, big Rebbes, and many Rosh Yeshivas, and many Rabbonim, or many Askonim. Here the Rebbe saw a situation endangering Am Yisrael. The Rebbe was a voice in a desert. Toil Bamidbar, alone. Where the whole world. Oh, my yeshiva, my Hasidim. For who the Rebbe wanted? For the whole world. And it didn't stop. For years and years and years. And not you guys not only didn't help, some of you guys were interrupting, interfering, and sabotaging the Rebbe's effort. There was a Klal Yisrael lead. Then he asked me, but Rebbe never came to the asifas from the daily Yisrael. So why should Rebbe go there? Tell me one reason. What's happening in these asifas? What's good for us? For our the Rebbe was not us. The Rebbe was Klal Yisrael. They're going to waste his time with you people about the yeshivas, how to get more money from Washington. That was the money, you know. There was also there. I want to tell him, Rashiva, I want to describe to you the Rebbe's tkiyas. You know the Rebbe from his lomdes. You know the Rebbe from his from the Rebbe's haskonas. I wanted to describe the Rebbe's tkiyas to you. I describe it to the best of my ability. He became so bottled, so. If you would be the Rebbe's tkiyas, I told him, you would be the Rebbe's biggest chosid. We departed best friends. The deal was, I'm going to, when I come to America, back to America, we're going to meet. This, but never happened. I didn't have time. And he is, I don't know. I'm not sure he's alive or not. He's, anyway, that's his, a few months ago, important to know. I have a friend in Crown Heights, a successful businessman, very quiet young man. And one time I met him in Crown Heights, he wants to talk to me. One of his friends is one of the big personalities in the frum world in Brooklyn. A very known guy, but influential person. Hasidish, a little yeshivish, but a man with a lot of respect. And he had certain questions about him. I'm not going to Chassidim today, but the Rebbe does. The Rebbe is not. There's no other thing beside the Rebbe. I didn't want to touch the word Moshiach, but I could see that where it's coming. That's my friend. He knows Lubavitch, very serious people. Where it's coming, the Rebbe is. The way they look at the Rebbe. Okay, I know there was a big tzaddik, there was a tzaddik gomor and all meises, but the Rebbe is an absolute. What's going on here? I told my chaver, I'm not going to answer you now. I'll write you something. Send it.
Your friend was coming to you. What to say to him?
What to say to him? I wrote down a whole letter. I sent it to him. She'll give on. And I told him like this. Very simple thing. And it's important to know where we're coming from, Hasidim coming from. It's growing up in Farabad, growing up with the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, my Morim, farbrengen. But the Rebbe's caring for Klal Yisrael, Alleman. We saw, I'm looking for a child in Farabad. The Reshet, Tzach, for Ulas, making big pools, Simchas Torah, to see the skis of, to invite more. The Rebbe careful, go to the Ma'abarot, go everywhere to help in, and the Rebbe was pushing, and there was other people pushing for their community. That was for Klal Yisrael, and the Hasidim in the Hasidim Bechlal, so the Rebbe's for them. Not just is with serious nefesh. What's happening in Australia, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Paris, in London, and they're hiding stuff in Russia. In those days, we all knew the Rebbe's connections in Russia. And with absolute serious nefesh, it's not just, I have money, I have a good mind, I can give ideas, I'm a good marketing, I can do this. Absolute serious nefesh for Ummetum. When Hasidim saw it, what did they saw? Never been anything like it. That's in a nekuda for Mashiach. Mashiach Hashem is a Mashiach for everybody. Didn't exist ever in history of the world, of the history of the Jewish people. This kind of farnem and iberigem kind, to Mesiras Nefesh, not just let's do it, it's a good thing to do, why not? There are people doing a lot of good things. See, how long it's going, fine. If you want a Schwierigkeit, forget about it. They did not stop to do more and more and more and more. Send shluchim and building. Where it's coming. This is a Shliach from Mashiach Hashem. It's for young age, growing up around the Rebbe, with the Rebbe. What do we see besides seeing the Rebbe's Kedusha, the Rebbe's Elika, the Rebbe's Lomdas, the Rebbe's Maimorim? What the Rebbe looked at Klal Yisrael. And the Rebbe demanded from his shluchim to be like him. Get out with Mesiras Nefesh. There was no money available. There was nothing available. They had money to spend, to send. The Rebbe gave money to shluchim. But that feeling of absolute ibergemkeit with Mesiras Nefesh for Klal Yisrael, first of all, that itself inspired a generation and still inspiring generations of people to go out on Shlichus. Are you wondering why Chassidim looking at the Rebbe's Mashiach Hashem? That we grew up in it. It's not we grew up in it. That's what we saw.
Reality.
When the Rebbe's every letter, sending letters, farbrengen, sending shluchim, pushing in every opportunity. I give an example. My daughter, my sister, she's 9 years older than me. She was a young girl in Farabad. In Farabad was no high school for girls at that time. It was two options. A modern school in Tel Aviv, high school for girls, or a Bes Yaakov school in Yerushalayim, in a dormitory in Yerushalayim. A letter came from the Rebbe to send kids to the dormitory in Yerushalayim. Bes Yaakov. Talk about Tovshin Tezayin, Tovshin Tezvov, or even earlier. Farabad Yerushalayim was like, in those days, like Yerushalayim in New York today. Different world, far away. The conditions with Yaakov dormitory, and my sister was a rushing young little girl with the mother, My father, they began nothing gained. Some Greece Chassidim didn't. My sister, when the Rebbe heard she's going, I saw the letter. The Rebbe wrote the letter to my father and to her. And then the Rebbe writes in her letter to her. There's a girl from Holland there. A girl moved from Holland in Bes Yaakov. Please be mekarev here and be mechazek here. Every opportunity. A little girl. And I'm sure you saw the... Huh?
Yeah, to give her Shlichus.
Yeah, so a little girl is going to seminary, about 14, 15-year-old girl going to seminary in the Bes Yaakov, Yerushalayim, There's another girl from Holland there. Please, I'm a caraver. Be a caraver. Every opportunity, Rebbe saw the world, everybody. When I came to Hartford of Shlichus, I down in a small little shtibel here. It doesn't exist anymore. Shtibel for Holocaust survivors. I came to Shul on Shabbos. I see a guy with a streimel. A Rushleimer guy. He sees me, he runs over to me. Atabatsky, Lubavi, yeah. We hate my name. I didn't know Gopin. He told me, what we hate here? My name is Yosel Scheinberger. Yosel Scheinberger was one of the Führers von der Eidach Redis. He was the masker for the Eidach Redis. And there was a known name. I think it was a brother-in-law from Amram Bloy, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He was a feather to the Herzl family. Okay. Became very friendly in Shabbos.
What was he doing?
He came to make the balabos there, kosher balabos. Nicht gegen diese Gewirr, but a Yiddish Geschmack Mensch. He wants to spend Shabbos with him. This he tells me. Soll es wissen sein? Ich tu gar nicht an dem Rem. Ich habe Fichides. Ich muss mehr tun als mit dem Rem. He didn't even tell it to me. He had to impress me. He's an older guy, my young guy came. I was 25 years old. He's an older, known guy. But I say where he said it. Eidach Redis. They did things. They trusted the Rebbe. You know, it was the Rebbe. But the Rebbe cared for them too. Years later, I'm coming into a Mesibe in West Hartford, and I see a Yerushalayim Reed, Yerushalayim Hitler mit like Pes. I don't know what you're doing there. Mishpoche, ich weiß nicht was. He sees me, comes over to me. Basket, I told my name. Here he knew my name. He knew my Mishkopi Mishpoche. It was my brother Zalman's wife was Mishpoche with him. He tells me, let's go outside for a walk. He said, I'm a Schleimer from the Schlesienberg. Von a Schleimer-Spoche. I was a Chevraman and I want to go to business. It's a group of ältere Schleimeriden from the Eidach Redis and other asked me to become an asken to help Mishpoches. All kind of things. He said, we need a person like you. And I accepted it. And I did tremendous things, still doing. I used to go to the Rebbe. The Rebbe guided me. Every little thing. I loved the Rebbe Zoktemir. And he started crying. He was crying. I love it. I miss the Rebbe. Then he tells me, you know what happened a few days ago? Somebody brought me a tape from the Rebbe saying Shlichus Asor B'Teves Tovshin Ovei. The guy was crying he was crying. Alter Shleimerid to see the Rebbe saying Shlichus like this. The point I want to bring out here, the Rebbe's reach, not the Rebbe's reach, the Rebbe's commitment, dedication to Am Yisrael was to everybody. We don't see it anywhere. We don't see it. It's in the Shlichus like this. People cannot do it. It's not a natural thing. It's not human. People I like this one, like that one, but the including and the being part of everybody. That's not something what is and that hashpoah is going on forever and ever. You think where it's coming? Where it's coming? The Rabbi Yungelite going to Shlichus. We have to be Chassidim. Bechlal to go on Shlichus. To go on Shlich, but I went to Shlichus was almost didn't make any sense. To come to community, nobody wants you, nobody knows you, nobody cares for you, and not to those one. People say, "But get the hell out of here. Who needs you here?" And we went. We didn't care what people think about us. We had no money. We had nothing. I think we are such a Bala Mesiras Nefesh. That is the Rebbe. The Rebbe gave us the Emunah, the Verstand. Gay, don't worry, gay. Huh? What? It's not us, but we are the koiches to be on that level. I met a chaver of mine in those days. He tells me, you know what? It's suicidal, he tells me. To go a place, no money, with no language.
He told you then?
That time.
You didn't speak English?
I spoke enough to get money what I needed. Anyway, the point I'm saying to you, that Zugang, the Shluchim to go in places like this, you think it's coming from Arabinas Hashem? Are we Bala Mesiras Nefesh? And that's the idea of Roye Yisrael, the Maimer the Rebbe gave us of Zayin Oder Tovshin Nun Beis. The Nekudah of the Maimer is Roye Yisrael. The Rebbe gave it us 2 beis for of Zayin Oder. And that's a Maimer for after of Zayin Oder. The Maimer is not to tell us, hey, there used to be Roye Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu, Mordechai, the Frike Rebbe in Russia. And give us a Maimer for now, for the future. What's me Roye Yisrael? Roye Emunah? Raya Mehemna? The Emunah, what the Shluchim have to go on Shlichus, that's coming from the Rebbe.
One of the integral components of being a chassid are the Chassidish Yomim Tovim and Yom Pagra. Whether it's Hey Tevis, Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph Nisan, or Gimel Tammuz. These days give us an opportunity to connect with our Rabbeim, to connect with each other, and be better chassidim. What is the story behind each of these days? How did the Rebbe commemorate and celebrate these days? And most importantly, what are the lessons, the takeaways, and the action items Hamaisa Hua Iker needed for each of these days? All of this and much, much more are answered in the new set recently published by Derher. Our Days is a journey through the Chabad calendar in story, meaning, and practice. With over 700 beautiful, glossy pages with elevated content, beautiful, beautiful photographs, you, your family, and friends will enjoy and live with each Chassidish Yom Tov. This book is a must for every Lubavitcher home, for every shul, for every school. It is a perfect gift item. This will not collect dust. It will be used day after day, month after month, year after year. You can have this set. Go to derher.org/Our Days. Order your set today and start living with Chassidish Yom Tov. Okay, Shliach for I don't know what you call it, Divrei Seidus or Divrei Emes, the Karan Divrei Emes. I want to ask you a little bit, just to backtrack a little bit about your personal experience. So I know that the Lameds you already mentioned briefly. After Lamed, there was a lot happening, the Yehudi and the protests in Russia, Lamed Aleph. What would you say are notable? You already mentioned the Kabbalah's, the Sefer Kabbalah's Shliach Tzidkenu. What are other notable events or inyanim that transpired in your years in 770 that you would want to talk about?
First of all, Mashiach Sefer Torah was so big, we really did not try to interpret it. What's going on here? One thing I can tell you. The Elam saw it as something out of this world. But the Rebbe to Messiah Sefer Torah, Messiah, selling people should buy letters. And then if I bring in Erev Shabbos, 1:30 Erev Shabbos in Shvat farbrengen, and Sim Sefer Torah, there was a big excitement building up to it. Thursday night, the Kfutze came from that stroll, a whole plane came from that stroll. Rabbi Shlomo Chaim came, Isaiah came, old and young, sitting, it was a big group came for Yud Shvat. The Rebbe did not go home and waited till the Kfutze comes. When the Kfutze came, the Rebbe called in Simpson and told him to announce that tomorrow 1:30 will be the Sim Sefer Torah, and it's going to farbrengen. You have no idea what happened in 770. He was upstairs at the time. The Tenserai was to hear these words. To him singing, Azasort is Pilus, Azasort is Rakshus. Alte, young, Gitans, Mamish. Then the Rebbe said, they called in the Askonim from the Tzrova. They were Bisasek in the Pirsum von Sefer Torah. It was Efraim Wolf, Shlomo Kimadanchik, Shmuel Heifer, Hanok Litzenstein, and Rabbi Shlomo Chaim. They went to the Rebbe, they gave them, they brought the Rebbe all the Simes, but we didn't know what happened special in the Tichidus. But the Rebbe walked into farbrengen again. As I described to you before, the Rebbe's face, Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe's face walking into to the Beis Medrash, to the farbrengen, with the box. The Rebbe's face was never saw anything like it. When the Rebbe sat down and started singing the Yancho special, the Rakshas from the Rebbe's voice, the Rebbe was such a Rakshas, it was so emotional, the Rebbe. Just listen to the tape, the way he's saying it. And then the Axel Sim Sefer Torah. And I think one of the biggest nisim was, and so the biggest nisim in 770 was that people remain standing on their places. There were so many warnings before that warning, people should not move, people should not stay in one place, and people didn't move. People stayed in the place, the whole thing. But it was a very, it was the Sim Sefer Torah, but knows about it was a lot of opinionim, but people know about it's nothing what I can add. Anything happened. Motzoi Shabbos, and so bringing Erev Shabbos 1:30, Bosilagani with Arasha Sefer, and the big farbrengen we would say Shabbos. We have done Ma'ariv that time downstairs, a Chidush Ma'ariv downstairs, and the Rebbe went upstairs. I was still staying there. A short of the Ma'ariv, the Rebbe comes in with another Sefer Torah. The Rebbe came in from his room with a Sefer Torah, put it in the room in the Rosh Kodesh, and went upstairs. What was it? From where was the Sefer Torah? There was no discussion about it, nothing. A similar thing happened. I remember Erev Shabbos Shlichus, Tovshin Choftes. We're staying upstairs, waiting for Erev Shabbos, staying upstairs. All of a sudden, I see Benjamin Gorodetsky is coming, and I see the Pilsen family is coming, all the Shia Pilsen is coming, and I see his sister-in-law from Tunisia is coming, and I feel something happening. Something going on. Meet them all, David Raskin is showing up. All are open. Get away. Nobody should stay here. And he said, everybody go downstairs. Went downstairs. All of a sudden, I see on one of the beamers there, Yudel Kninsky is staying with the camera. And all of a sudden, the Rebbe comes down with a Sefer Torah, put on Kodesh, and we get up in Mincha. But the Omed was a man called at the time David Fisher. He was an oval. He was staying by the Omed to daven Mincha. The Rebbe turns around and he said, "Shia Pirsa to daven Mincha." And the Rebbe yelled out, "David, ich hoff, hast dich kein Faribel auf mir." Then we find out this is a Sefer Torah brought from Tunisia to the Rebbe.
Yeah, it was the first article in Derher that I personally worked on. Was we had a thing describing a picture, so we found it's a picture that's around. But there was two. I spoke to people that knew. This says either it's Tafshan Lamed or it's this thing with Tunis, and I had to figure out which one it was. I was able to figure it out because I saw it's like you could see the clock in the picture, so you can see what time it is. So,
it was for 5 o'clock?
Yeah, so based on I don't remember the time, but based on the Yumanim, I was able to figure out it can't be Matzah Shabbos, it must be the Tunis.
Was right? It was for Mincha after Shabbos afternoon. I was there, and then that's his. Now, but the big thing was that is, Yud Shvat is already. A lot of them spoke about it. Yud Shvat was Pirushim. I'm not going to give you. I can know what I saw. It was a big Elom. Big Elom from Anash came. The first time a big Elom came. But people didn't come there many years came. Was a big, it was that for that time was the biggest gathering for Chassidim.
There's a big farbrengen, Chaim was farbrengen, and there was a whole.
That's it. You want about this? At that time, there was a Shlomo Chaim was there, and Rebbe Nissen was there. Shlomo Chaim verbracht the Brochim and Shlomo Chaim verbring. He verbringt the whole night till 6 in the morning. Shlomo Chaim not to verbring. But to make it, some people a little nervous, is they put next to him Label Raskin and Ahmed Sudak sitting next to Shlomo Chaim. They were his Talmidim.
Rabbi Abrams told me he was sitting there also. Yosel Abrams.
I can't remember. I can't remember it. I didn't pay attention. Maybe I said this. A packed Zal. And Bencher, Rabbi Tzvi Shem Tov, was sitting across the table the whole night. Keep working gesagt. Listen, that big, every night in 7 sinners for bringers. Such instructions, so many chassidim, that verbracht, then verbracht. The Zal was packed 24 hours. It's very geschmack. So when I sort salus, it was such a special time, like out of this world. Lamed Beis, I was a little bit older.
Now listen.
Without this Lamed Beis, I was older already. I was almost many more years since 770. And was a big seiros before that. People took upon themselves chassidus and this and that. It was a very building up to. Was a very the whole from Yud Shvat till all of these people were doing things and things. I could say it was a big farbrengen events when I just want to say something. That farbrengen can eat farbrengens, geschmack farbrengens, tiefe siches. So like when I use gabrus, I use gabrus, biurim noch biurim. The Rebbe walked in the farbrengen. Was a different look. Rebbe's face was so malchustig. So sort. That's a different look of the Rebbe. Het verbracht life, that's a sort koyach, that's a sort such a power. The Geschmack, tiefe Sichas. Somebody from the Chassidim comes to me and he asked me if I was there. So of course I was there. What was the feeling? So the Rebbe gestam bis galus. The face was gescheit, that was glowing, the Rebbe. Sicher, das a keach, sichers noch sichers. Aber the Shazai Seirus, he feels the Rebbe should, he feels the Rebbe should be the way it was. Told him, you missed the whole point.
This was then?
The Rebbe should be, no, a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big Chassidim.
So what's he saying that what?
The Rebbe was angetrogen. So I give you the point. We as Bochrim, that's what we wanted. We want to see the Rebbe's Malchus. Nobody needed the Rebbe. Nobody was looking for. We looked at the Rebbe, bis Galusi, bis Malchusi, bis Tifarte. There was so Rebbe. The way verbracht, wird gerät. Die ganze, das sie eine Sort, the way Rebbe looked like. We will feel not comfortable there to come. He was, the Rebbe was. Das ist Geschmack in der Nacht. We didn't look for, when they walked into the farbrengen Rebbe, it's a big, it's a melech Rebbe. So beautiful, so geschmack, and so amazing, man. The sicher is noch sicher. Of course, the came by the nigunim, but the Hashem Chosisi, it was given a similar thing we just tell you. Purim Lamed Aleph. They came farbrengen a few minutes late. Listen to the tape. Rebbe came in 5 minutes late. And the Rebbe gave the reason why he came late. He said we sent Shluchim to the Suez Canal, and we were waiting for them to come back to hear a report. And then the Rebbe said, Amokim Meyuched, and the Rebbe did not cry, but the Rebbe's voice was breaking down. But the kids said that farbrengen, from the beginning, there was a many instructions there. Sicher, noch sicher. Ich habe gesagt, Geschmack ist sicher, tiefe sicher, Geschmack ist Meimer. Sie gehen, und sie gehen, sie kommen after the 7th sicher. Heske said the Nigen. The Nigen was going on almost an hour. I never saw anything like it. Sie gingen, the tape, listen to the tape could not handle the noise. And the Rebbe didn't stop. Mitten, this, Adla Yoda, full cup to everybody. Zelig Sloni walked over to the Rebbe to say L'chaim, Adla Yoda, spät mit mir reden. Was for 45 minutes, an hour was unreasonable. I never saw anything, not before, not after. Was going on. And the person from Keichef so ongehen, there was zermürdig. Noch ein Farbrengen. The Borchims didn't go home, the Chsische Borchim farbrengen weiter. We sat in the corner there, the right corner, and Rebbe was there, Rebbe Shem Tov was there, Ibse Springer was there, and the Borchim farbrengen, doch L'chaim alle. So Berl und Benche zu Iche Spring Iche, doch Azaf farbrengen auf machen, Shechayona auf Kosmolev, Beshem Malchus. Azaf farbrengen. Iche, Biche got up, a big cup of wine, very prayer, goes Shechayona, Beshem Malchus. Take a cup of wine. That kind of feeling was at night there. Sie haben sich für verbringen, die Bussen so. Das war, sie war Sache, sie hat nicht einmal aufgehabt. Und das verbringen mit der, I was a young bocher, ich habe Medal of Purim, but Mika, so clear.
Let me ask you, you mentioned that in those years that Rebbe started speaking about Shlimus Aretz, the Yehudi, and Tavshalam, the Rebbe speaking about the Shchunah, Crown Heights, all of these. I guess that's when it really started, the Rebbe talking about the Inyan Klalim in the world. How did you, can you elaborate on what it meant for the Bachrim to hear all the Shlichus?
The Rebbe spoke the Shlichus, most of them out of pain. We saw the Rebbe's pain. The Rebbe's care for Klal Yisrael. That was we saw. Years later, I was walking with an elder Chassid. It was the time when he was mashpim in all the Torah. We walk, and it asked me a question. What was the Shlichus? What did Bachar got out of it? He's like, I gave the answer I gave you just now. There was pain. There was Eis Hashem. If you're a Torah Sechos, the Chaz a tip for the Kudah given. We saw by the Rebbe to care for a Yid. Is that voran die Rasha Siches, voran the Maimer, voran die Siches. To Kim Breire, darf man tun. What gesehen bei Rebbe, ist als ein Hemmschach von der Rasha, Hemmschach von der, and many of the Siches, when the Rebbe spoke about me Yehudim, usually when the Rebbe spoke the Levi Yitzchak, Rebbe Lekuti Levi Yitzchak of Zeyar, the Rebbe was Masbir, Zeyar, Lekuti Levi Yitzchak of Zeyar, and many times in this Zeyars was Zeyar talking about the Meiler von Eden, and that led into Mesichet from Yehudi. This was a Hemshech. But the Rebbe we saw, Kerve Klal Yisrael, is Zeyar, says Rashi, say a Maimer, ein Hemshech. Take a plan in Yonim. Nobody Bochrim, okay, me Yehuda, can I go to sleep right now? Let me lie down. Rebbe is yelled. You want to have the word of God, Rebbe is every expression, this and that. It's never can Epskenai Zakivan. That's my answer to you.
Right. I can see that the place where the Rebbe always discusses these Inyanim Klalim. It's not in the first two Sichos. It's in the Biyurim and Nashri, Biyurim and Zayah. Yeah, that's when the Rebbe does it. So, and also those years, you were by the Sudas upstairs, the Starim also.
In the Storim, I was by the last Seder, Tov Shalom by the Rebbe. If not the last Seder, Purim Tov Shalom, Pesach Tov Shalom, nobody's going to the Seder. Because Tov Shechavtes was a Sikh for the Rebbe, Bochrim should not come to the Seder. My first Pesach by the Rebbe, we're sitting in the Farabad building on Kingston Avenue. The Rebbe came to the Bochrim, and the Rebbe goes back to his making Seder. I was sitting with another Chaver. So the Rebbe is making a Seder next door, and I'm sitting here. Me and my Chaver decided to make it quickly. We sneaked out, we came there. The door was locked.
Who was your Chaver? Who's your Chaver?
Moshe Perman. From Caracas. We came up, upstairs, the door is locked. A particular person is going from upstairs, downstairs. Get away from here. It's not for you. We stayed there. And then another bocher came and he came to stay with us. Feature Vilenkin. Staying 3 of us there. All of a sudden, the previous Rebbe's nurse, maniac, is going from upstairs downstairs. From 3rd floor to the 2nd floor. There's a key. Kinderlach, kommt da rein. We came in, we're afraid to get in. We stay by the door. But we're afraid the Rebbe will see us. We stay by the door, but watching from the door, watching the door to the cheder of the saunas, dining room. But little by little got courage. We got closer. And we saw the Rebbe say, to tell you the truth, it was my first time there, but the Rebbe say there, I was more focused on the close Indian, on the Rebbe itself, not so much on. I mean, Hogim, I didn't. Look at the Rebbe. Says there was more. The Rebbe said, "Yeah, go there, this and that." I didn't look at the Kzesim exactly. Just saw the Rebbe, but the Kzesim. I didn't look. I look at that, but just speaking, the Rebbe sitting, the Rebbe say there. There was it was the first night. It was very quiet the whole night. Very, very quiet. Actually, it was like to himself. And by the end of the Seder, the Rebbe, because the cause in the battle for the cause, because Shelio, nobody knew what I didn't know what the Rebbe was doing there. And they walked out with the Nigen Prozi station. Towards the end of the Seder, more people came, or Bochrim came, and the Rebbe walked out. The Rebbe's is rakshas, walking out from the Seder to his room, was like some chastera. Most of the Bochrim were staying downstairs in the Gnei Datach. And I was going down the steps. Was so Mami could see the Rebbe is coming out from Mitzrayim. It's amazing.
Okay. So you were in 770, you said, for 5 years.
Yeah.
So what happened by your shidduch? Is there anything to share from that?
We got engaged. Cheshvan Tovshin Lamedaled. And my wife was at that time at a seminary in Paris. Chabad seminary for girls. We became Yechidus after we got engaged. And we wrote the Rebbe, we want to get married before Pesach and come back after Pesach here to go to the Koilel and start the next year to look at a job for teaching. And the Rebbe told us, no, to make the wedding in Tammuz. She said, no, my wife should finish the school year in Paris, made the wedding in Tammuz. Die Woche für Yud Beis Tammuz. Die Woche before or after, but nicht später von der 12 Tammuz. Then the Rebbe tells us, and we can nicht in Tammuz machen die Chasene in Elul. In those days, the Rebbe was pushing made the Chasene as soon as possible.
Shorter, yeah. The Rebbe always wants to make it shorter, yeah.
Tammuz, from Cheshvan to Tammuz. Elul. But we saw later on, said if the Chasene was in Elul, we got married in Tammuz, Yud Tammuz. The Chasene was in Elul, a lot of things would be different. The Rebbe saw things, what's going to happen. Open Ruach HaKodesh.
Mm-hmm. You can't share what it is.
Anyway, I was in Koilel. Is the time Shlichus started to grow. And Shluchim came to look for Shluchim in Koilel. Nobody approached me. Nobody came to me. I don't speak English, and I didn't experience. My Chaverim are getting offers. I get no offer. I was not worried. I got some offers, but Yisrael, there was a Chaver of mine, and he just started out in Amherst. He needed help.
So this is Lamed Hey.
Lamed Hey, Zumer Lamed Hey, and Zalman Deitchel of Sholem was very involved in Yisrael at the time to build Amherst. And Zalman was a good friend of my Zalman, and Zalman told Yisrael, I'm the right person. And I'm very grateful to Yisrael giving me the opportunity to go in Shlichus. And when we went to Shlichus, I told Yisrael that I cannot see myself all my life working with students in Amherst. And I wanted to, after a couple of years, help you to be established. I'll move to Hartford. That was the agreement. There was the Rebbe's. And that would happen.
So this is the Chatchila. This is the Chatchila.
Yeah, the Chatchila there.
So you wrote this into the Rebbe, this whole thing?
Avada. I wrote the Rebbe other things also. The Rebbe erased other things. Not the Rebbe had that so to go to Australia. The Rebbe again was Australia or Amherst. The Rebbe told me Linsoya lemokim asher lefi asharosom yatzlichu yeser. To go to a place, according to their estimation, they'll be more successful. Went to Amherst. And I think I loved it very much with the students, but I know it's not. And I came to Hartford, and the rest is history.
But the Hidayot from the Rebbe that you got in your Shlichus in Hartford.
It was not personal stuff, but is Beklol is what I can tell you one thing. I realized how much the Rebbe appreciate you write a duch to the Rebbe. I wrote duchs to the Rebbe very, very often, and as detailed as possible. At the time when I wrote very often and very detailed, I got more response from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe answered me most of us when we do the Rebbe answered this kabel v'tach zman grome, but constantly answers. But I was a lot of things with the Shlichus, the Rebbe, the answered, but this is not. Maybe by farbrengen one time we'll speak about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what when I understand that coming to Hartford then and today, there's a big difference in the influence of Chabad in the city. So how would you describe in a few paragraphs what has happened from when you came till now?
So when I came to Hartford, that was the first full building in Hartford. Nobody knew what Chabad is all about it. Nobody cared about Chabad. Nobody liked Chabad. Even the Orthodox community was not welcoming, the least I can say. And the establishment was trying to do whatever it can to send me back to New York. The question was asked, who sent you here? Why do you come here? I told him, thank God they didn't ask you to come here. The Rebbe sent me here. The Rebbe Shliach for the Rebbe. There was a lot of resentment and very difficult times in the beginning. Of course, there was no money. It was very difficult to be in a community, to feel the community is hostile. The establishment. And there were other movements, other institutions, the more progressive, looked at me as an enemy to them. I didn't care. This was I know that's the Shlichus, and that's all. What is that? We did shuri, we did the camp, and we did the campus. We kept doing pulas after pulas. And with time, people realized that it's not, there was no magic here. Poshet Tom pulas. And the Rebbe's Mifzoim, and especially the Rebbe's Mifzoim, to make with the Purim, to make a big Purim, to make an example, we had in early with a Purim. I could do it with the Chabad, a small tiny Purim. I decided on Motzei Shabbos Purim. I rent a big hall, an Orthodox synagogue, a big hall rented, and I announced it's going to be a royal Purim party with a band, free, refreshments, homentation, salads. At that time, 500 people came, the first Purim. And we did year after year. And the Hanukkah made big events. And I think we did things today. I look back, how did you have the courage to do that? We brought down Tide Bikel of a Hanukkah event. Over 2,000 people showed up. We made event after event. We kept, and of course, little by little, people start to think differently about Chabad. The original establishment. Thank God, most of them are already passed away, but there's some remnants left. But I didn't pay attention to them. They don't like me too bad. I didn't go to them. I didn't bother them. But listen, we had Nissim and influence. After 11 years in Hartford, we made a Hanukkah Sabayis of a most modern, fancy building in the heart of the community. I want to tell you, I look back, where I got the idea even to have the courage, the farnem. Thank God we had here Abalabos David Chase.
He lived in Hartford.
He lives in Hartford. He was very, very helpful, helpful to us. And I want to just tell you one thing about David Chase. He was a big supporter of Rabbi Harrison. Rabbi Harrison educated him, and he made him a chosed from the Rebbe. Rabbi Harrison made him a chosed from the Rebbe. We built a Chabad house, and the Baruch Hashem, today, we have today 12 Chabad houses around us. And I'm telling you one thing, it's like that little story happened to me. Tov Shinun. And there was an organization at the time, what Torah Meseira was organizing, called the Seed Program. They did it here in Hartford, 1 year, 2 years, and then start to fade away. The head guy came from New York to make a meeting with the rabbis, all the older, so this time was the older rabbis here. So how we can save it? I asked the head of New York guy, a literature guy, tell me, what is the outcome of this program after it? And he tells me, unfortunately, not too much. He asked me, do you have any idea? I said, yeah. If you learn them Tanya and Hasidus, you'll inspire them. There were 4 older rabbis in town. One of them was Yitzchok Avigdor, older rabbi, Holocaust survivor. And he gets up and says, Rabbi Gopin, you shouldn't speak. Because your success is not you, it's your Rebbe. So the Rebbe's koiches, it tells me. In front of everybody, that's what he saw. That's the MS. I want to finish with one point about Yud Shvat Tov Shel Lamed Hei. Tov Shel Lamed Hei was a very stormy year in the aspect of the Rebbe's Milchomes. Tov Shel Lamed Daled, the beginning of the tanks, Mitzvah tanks. Made a very big story in New York. A story in New York, of course, positive, and a kitrug. But the Rebbe knew that tanks is a different shlav, a different style from Afotze. The Chatchila Riber, the tank was a different world, a different kind of. And the Rebbe knew it was going to be the reaction. But the Rebbe is the Rebbe. Full force tank, and the Rebbe if I bring it the land. It was, of course, that caused the article, particular rabbi, to write a very negative article about it. And the Rebbe came out very strong against that article. A few weeks later, was a situation that the Israeli leader, don't mention names, please, was in Israel, in Manhattan, and a very special fundraiser, I prophesied for the Mizrahi party. But that particular person was asked, what's it with me, Yehudi? He said, in Europe, we fought the Chofetz Chaim, and now we're going to fight the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I was in Gemad already. I see it. So around between Rosh Chodesh Kislev and Yud Kislev. And I see a particular guy. He was the treasurer of the Mizrahi party. He was at that event. He was very close to the Rebbe. He was by Mincha, and the Rebbe called him in. It was a long time with the Rebbe. The next day or two, Gershom Ber, front page headline, Nalgeminer, about this, what the guy said. The front page headline. And we know the Rebbe told him to do it. In 77, the writing, but the Rebbe told him, I know the Rebbe told him to do it. That's I know about it. At the time, I know about it. Is now was me Yehudi. The article in Forwards, and now this guy became like a Melchoma Kegrem. And the Rebbe at that time, the Shlichus for the Rebbe, but was a very serious time in 70. People didn't feel it, but we know about it. There were side effects to the thing also. Some people did stupid things. We know it's a tough time in Lubavitch. Yud Shvat Rebbe addressed it. Via Melech. I know it's a tough time. We know. But that farbrengen was a big farbrengen. Sicher after sicher. And then in the middle of farbrengen, Shluchim, Meisdes, came to the Rebbe with balabatim and with gifts. A gift to the Rebbe. The matzah was oinvenit. The Rebbe was sitting there via Melech. Das war so schmechen. I think like the ganze Welt, the ganze Tummel herum bin gar nicht. And Balabos after Balabos came to the Rebbe. Shliach of the Shliach with those, and there was the Kabul, everybody. It was 45 minutes to an hour. I was sitting there and Poshet Kleib Nachasi, the Rebbe's Shmeichel. Like what's going around the Rebbe doesn't matter. To the Rebbe, nothing matters. The ganze Farbrengen. By the end of the Farbrengen, the very famous video, Uforatsto. There was dancing Uforatsto. Was meaning. You could see the Rebbe knows what's going on in the world. Uforatsto, garnished. The baby was dancing. Look, it's a video. It was dancing. It's a video of the whole Farbrengen. It's very geschmack. One of the sichas, the Farbrengen, by Yud Shvat, was a lot of people came to the Rebbe's, Rabbonim, dignitaries came, mayors and senators came. At the time, the Yachas, the relation at Israel, America was very tense, very tense. There was a big disagreement about the Israelis pulling out of parts of the Suez Canal. President Ford was pressuring Israel to move far away. Israel didn't want to go. And he said, no more weapons. With the embargo. But that Farbrengen was a guy named Yosef Chachnover. He was the head of the security of the defense delegation in New York. Chachnover. Very close to the Rebbe. In the middle of Farbrengen, he walks over to the Rebbe. The Rebbe, look who's behind you. Congress people, senators. We are in trouble with America. Please say a few words for Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe said a sikha about the moral obligation for America to support Israel. Beautiful sikha. A tiny country in a sea of goyim, with a jungle. The only democratic country is Israel. They share the same values, same principles. Beautiful sikha. The next day, we were standing outside Merkez Leone Chinuch, a couple of blocks we light. We see Nissim Mindel walks out from the Rebbe's room. He turns to us. Does anybody has a copy of this sikha? So he typed. So yes, can I get it? The brother right there went upstairs, brought it to him. He translated to English, and that sikha entered the congressional record. And that sikha made a big impact in Washington. Yossi, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity that of Shabbos, 12 and a half hours is a long time. And God shall help, there should be no more interviews. The Rebbe should come back to the court of Mamesh, take us out of Golas, and bring the Gula Shleima of the court of Mamesh. We cannot wait anymore. And you'll see when the Rebbe come back, how many people will be there waiting for the Rebbe and embracing the whole Rebbe's Galas. Millions of Jews were waiting today for the Rebbe's Galas. Let's hope and let's pray it's going to happen. The Korev Mamish. Good Shabbos and Kol Salah.
Amen. Yashakeh. Rabbi Gopin.